Finally running a homebrew campaign in your own world can feel like a dream come true. You're finally breathing life into this world that you've been dreaming of for years and pouring countless hours of work into. So why do my players keep making fart jokes and insisting on hanging out with Boblin the Goblin? I just made him up on the fly. What's up guys, I'm Paladin, and today I'm here to burn your world and your dreams to the ground. I'm just kidding. But seriously, for passionate dungeon masters, running a homebrew campaign can feel as natural as a dragon hoarding treasure. And if you're really passionate about D&D, then surely you've been passionate about fantasy and world building for years. You probably grew up in other fantasy worlds like Azeroth or Middle-earth or Zanarkand or Skyrim, and as you grow up, it's hard not to daydream of what it would be like if you created your own world, created that magic for yourself, and shared it with other people. But what was it that made you fall in love with these worlds to begin with? Was it the geography, or the details of the lunar calendar, or its political systems? Well sure, maybe. All of that stuff can be really interesting. But what about the characters that you connected with? Two best friends fighting to save the world against all odds? Or your first crush prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice? Or was it the characters that you created and the stories that you told and the adventures that you went on with your friends in these worlds? So just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I personally really struggle with ADHD and anxiety. And I've noticed throughout the years that this seems to be pretty common with other people throughout this hobby. And so for people like us, if you have ADHD, it can be really exciting to jump into something like homebrewing your own campaign world head first. But when you tackle such a huge task so quickly, what was really fun and a hyperfixation for weeks on end can slowly turn into this eldritch monster of dread and anxiety. And soon enough, you might start telling yourself things like, well, I haven't finished fleshing out my pantheon of gods yet, so I can't start running my campaign. Or, once I finish fleshing out this entire city, then I'll be ready to invite my friends to play. Or even something like, I don't know who the king's true brother is yet, but once I get that sorted, then I'll start. But look, here's the thing. Playing D&D is a collaborative effort. That's what makes it so special. And the stories that you tell together with your friends around the table or on Discord will always trump the stories that you've written and locked away in some Google Doc, waiting for the perfect time to break it out and finally share it with them. You don't have to have entire political systems or pantheons or royal hierarchies fleshed out to get started. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is what or who you will be presenting to your players in the very next session. And take it from me, this is coming from experience. No matter how much work you put into it, your players are always going to be way more excited about saving the village baker or hanging out with Boblin the Goblin than they ever will be in your 1,000 years of fleshed out lore or weird gibberish fantasy names for the days of the week. Nearly 10 years of running D&D has taught me that small characters will always be more compelling than big worlds. And when you start with small characters, the vast world that they live in will slowly reveal itself to you over time. And you can get started on this like right now, like tonight even, because I'm going to share with you a simple and effective system that I use to create every single town in my homebrew world, and most importantly, the people that live in them. And it only takes me about an hour to do. And to show you how, I'm going to walk you through the creation of one of my favorite towns in my world, the village of Dogwood. Okay, so personally I struggle with designing spaces and things and places, but I love creating characters. So rather than overwhelming myself by trying to create my own map from scratch, I just go on Google image search or Pinterest and find something that fits the vibe I'm going for, like this. I knew I wanted Dogwood to be a logging town because I thought that there could be a lot of interesting conflict that comes from that, but more on that in just a bit. And obviously every town needs a name, so I just went to Wikipedia and started looking at different types of trees, and I landed on the name Dogwood. I don't know, I just thought it sounded cozy. Then I start to imagine just one single character who might live there. And soon enough, the town that they live in will start to reveal itself to me. Let me show you what I mean. This is Lieutenant Volt, the Dragonborn Paladin and Constable of Dogwood Village. Lieutenant Volt has followed my players into war, but he started out as a small list of bullet points in my journal amounting to no more than 20 words total. And that's how all of my NPCs start out. A name, a profession, and a list of 3 traits described in no more than 5 words each. One of these traits should be physical, which will help you describe what they look like to your players and help them come up with a unique image for the character in their heads. This could be something like a verbal tic or quirk, like always stroking their beard when they're nervous or telling a lie, or it could also be something like a twisted scar across their face, leaving players wondering how it got there. For Lieutenant Volt, I decided that he is always holding this little kitten named Mittens, obviously. But the thing is, he's allergic to cats, so he's constantly sneezing, blowing his nose, sniffling, stuff like that. This is kind of silly, but my friends loved it. It immediately gives the players something to connect to and gives them an excuse to interact with him. Like, where did Mittens come from, and why does he insist on taking care of her if he's so allergic to cats? He's a giant blue dragonborn, the type of character that you would typically think would be really scary and kind of intimidating. But don't get caught up in fleshing out all of those details right now, because the answers will become clear to you over time. Just keep moving on to the next trait. And that should be something positive about the character. Something admirable or something that could be useful to your players. So if you're creating the town blacksmith, maybe he's really good at creating horseshoes or fixing broken daggers. For Lieutenant Volt, I decided that he secretly helps take care of a widow living in Dogwood because her husband died under his command. This shows players that Lieutenant Volt has a sense of leadership and community and honor. He may be sort of intimidating on the surface, but deep down, he's really just a big softie. This also gives him a narrative justification to become a quest giver for the campaign. He might eventually ask the players to help him protect the village because his town guard continues to dwindle under his command. The third and final trait should be something negative. Not necessarily evil, but like a vice or a crutch. Something that's holding them back from their true potential. And this is what really brings your NPCs to life. They're not just two-dimensional quest givers with a yellow exclamation point above their head. They're living, breathing people with their own struggles, dreams, and goals, just like you and I. And so at this point, I was already thinking about how Lieutenant Volt has this sense of responsibility for the village, but he keeps losing town guard under his command. So I decided that he has a drinking problem. Drinking ale and hanging out at taverns is a super fun trope in D&D, so I wanted to use it to give him some more dimension. He's trying his best to protect Dogwood and the people that live there, but he's crumbling under the pressure. And so he may start flaking out on his responsibilities. The players might actually find him for the first time passed out at the local tavern. Maybe Volt actually needs to be taking care of the villagers just as much as the villagers need him to be taking care of them. And I know, that might sound like a lot for just a few bullet points, but seriously, let me read out to you exactly what I wrote down in my own GM notebook when I was prepping for the session that would introduce Volt to the party. This is 100% legit. I'll put a picture of my notebook on screen so you can see what I'm talking about if it's even legible to you guys, but this is what I wrote down. Lieutenant Volt. Lieutenant is misspelled. Brass Dragonborn, but I decided to make him blue because that's how I painted the mini. In charge and large. The first bullet point says, has a stray kitten that he takes care of. He's allergic. Helps take care of a single mom. Husband died on the job. Emma. At the time, I had no idea who Emma was. Incredibly fond of booze. That's it. All of these deeper layers about the character didn't actually reveal themselves until the players had a chance to interact with him and react to him, and vice versa. And so now, we have just one character fleshed out, but we can already see a narrative and an entire town fleshing out around us. So now you can just repeat the process, giving every major point of interest in your town their own unique representative, like a tavern keeper, a blacksmith, an apothecary, potion seller, bartender, baker, stuff like that. Remember, it's the characters who give your world life, and suddenly a living, breathing world is starting to grow all around them. Remember how I mentioned the need for potential conflict earlier? Well, just consider what could be going on around your village that could compel an adventuring party to get involved. For Dogwood, Volt was losing so many men because an ancient druidic order continued to attack the town and ambush their logging operations deeper into the forest. Volt hates the druids because they keep murdering his men and orphaning the children that he protects in the village. Of course, the druids are just protecting their home, but selling lumber is how the people of Dogwood live, and because the players were able to meet them and connect with them, they're much more likely to sympathize with their cause. So, will the players help Lieutenant Volt destroy the druidic order once and for all? Or is there another solution to this whole problem? That is for you and your players to decide, but you've definitely laid the groundwork for one hell of a campaign, and it only took you a single page of your notebook in an hour or so to do. And if you want to learn more about how I run my entire campaign, you should check out this video right here. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And no matter what, don't get it twisted. Homebrewing a world is a lot of work. And so no matter how much you got done this week or whatever you've got going on, don't forget to be kind to yourself, and until next time, venture forth.